This type of conspiracy.
It's fact.
It's not. Wait, no. Dr. Disick made the joke to make fun of Badbunny. Play it, Raj. Tell me if this sounds like a joke. That is not what the First Amendment says. It says
yes, it does.
Everybody does this. Come on, really? Why do we laugh when women do it, but then get upset when men do it? Can I oppose the framing of this question? Like, is this really the best comedy that we have? Nobody even thinks about this stuff. It just happens without even thinking about it, and they have no idea how to be effective in their political messaging over it. And it's horrible to watch. This wasn't the Democratic Party of 10 years ago. And that's just 10 years ago.
Let's start with the introduction of Mr. Destiny. Destiny, welcome aboard. Thank you so much for joining us today. Introduce yourself.
I'm Destiny. I don't want to be here. Raj begs me.
Thank you very much, Destiny. Moving on to the right of Lucid Fox, Kandyland!
Yes!
Yes! Yes! Oh my God!
You know,
clap your hands! Hercules! 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 Okay.
Yes!
All right. What's going on?
You know what? Destiny, don't ever disrespect Raj again, okay? I am so happy to be here, and it's really fun. And
thank you so much, Candy.
Last time I defend you, Kandyland.
We brought him on to the show thanks to our new program for people that we feel bad for putting them on the show. Lycan TV, welcome aboard, Lycan. Thank you.
Yeah, no secret there. I landed in Austin, and 5 minutes later, I get a fucking message from you saying, please come on. And I'm like, well, shit, Raj must have no one to come on. Yes. And I thank you for confirming that.
Really? I thought Raj was hanging out with me down there.
No, look.
you get
it? Raj, tell me you got that one.
Wait, what? What he said, I got to Austin 5 minutes ago, and Raj hit me up? I'm trying to...
Never mind.
What's the joke?
The Miss DM.
Lycan, can you turn down your microphone a little bit? The gain is unbelievably loud.
When when you got to Austin, Raj, the first thing you did was hit up Destiny for clout.
No, Lycan said when I got there, Raj must have no one to come on. Do you get it? God damn it!
Oh no, okay, it's a
just
go
to the next thing.
I get it.
Destiny's a homophobe.
Right.
Why would that be homophobic?
The lead producer of the 007 franchise that said this, okay, that James Bond can be of any color, but never a woman. She went on to say that they should be creating new characters for women, strong female characters, and not putting them in the place of traditionally male ones. So I want to ask the cast here: do you agree with that sentiment that of the lead producer of one of the producers, I should say, of the 007 franchise, who I should note is also a woman?
Yeah, look, listen. At the end of the day, like if someone says they want to keep the character the way it was in the books, that's fine. It was James Bond was part of Her Majesty's Secret Service. I think he was former, military before that. Like there are a lot of reasons why he is a male instead of a female. Right now, if you want to go with, now they're taking place in 2020. Okay, fine, cool. But at the end of the day, the whole you'd have to change a lot of things with the way he interacts with people of the opposite sex, with the way he interacts with his entire just mystique and his physique and everything. Like there is a James Bond. It's a very clear character.
Real quick, so Lycan brought up stuff that was kind of dumb. So there's something called a Thermian argument, okay? A Thermian argument is when you say, well, this can only be a certain way because that's how the character exists in that world. That doesn't make sense because those worlds are fake. They can literally be any type of way, right? Like if we were to go and watch a movie where the only way the monsters got power was by murdering like 1-year-old children, they're like, wow, that was kind of fucked up. Why would they do that? I go, well, that's because how it has to be in that world. You can make the world however you want. So those arguments are bad. However, okay, if somebody wants to say that James Bond is a male character and that represents, like if males want like a role model to be James Bond, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that where we're at today, we've got like a ton of new superheroes for women. The representation isn't at parity, but you've got like your Black Widows, you've got, they remake anime movies and stuff. You have like role models for women now. And if somebody wants to keep like a certain type of character, either male or female, I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing in the world, rather than rehashing a movie for the 752nd remake, but just making them female instead of male. And as for, well, why can it be of any color instead of like, why can't it also be a woman? Well, because hopefully today we would say that like, well, Black people and white people and Asian people are all more or less like, can be switched with one another. We shouldn't say there's a significant difference between Black people and white people, but that we do acknowledge that like men have different types of role models and women have different types of role models. So maybe they just want to keep this character like a male character. You can still make like a female counterpart, like basically Black Widow or whatever seems like that kind of character. And I think that's an okay thing. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world.
Eva, what do you think?
I would disagree because I feel like you could switch women with men in a lot of ways, right? It's not going to be necessary. It would be the same. It would. You could make it that way.
Eva, do you believe that the James Bond franchise could sustain itself with a female lead character as James Bond, or we'd call them Jamesy Bond?
That's not the question.
I don't know.
Yeah, they could. They'd have to rewrite the plot.
I think
sure.
well, it's not. They don't. It's not that they have to rewrite the plot. It's just that when we think of like what James Bond is like a womanizing, like almost chauvinistic, like male, like edgy nihilistic character, or whatever. It seems to fit like a lot of kind of the male stereotypes we have in society. Like if you were to write that character as a female, like just swap it hardcore, like just swap it and change nothing else, it wouldn't really fit. We would have to start to change a lot of other things that people consider like part of the Bond identity. Now we can talk about if those things are problematic or not.
That's what I just said. That was my argument.
It would give a lot of publicity.
I think they're also taking into account. I would believe the director's also taking into account their fan base, right? So the idea of James Bond is it sells into the male power fantasy, right?
Sure.
And that fan base has now been developed out of that, and that fan base has been developed over 60 years at this point. So realistically, do they think they can bring a woman into the role and try to simulate that same response from their fan base?
Didn't they do that?
Is that going to land with the like? I'm not saying that it's right or not right what the director said.
Yeah,
I think they're more considering like what their bottom line looks like at the end of the day.
Doctor Who didn't have those kind of roles that made him a male like counterpart, someone that someone attached to and wanted to be like, or saw things that they thought were badass because he's doing it as a man. Doctor Who is different in that regard.
Peach, you want to get in
Can you
here?
not have a role model that is of the other gender?
Yes, you can, but sometimes there are certain aspects of being a man that you attach to being a male role model. Like if I watched that woman doing all that badass shit, I couldn't relate to it because I'm not a woman. So there's nothing wrong with me relating to men doing things that I consider manly or badass, and it's cool to watch.
I didn't
it's cool to be
say
a part
there's anything wrong with that, but is there a reason why you can't relate to a woman?
Because I'm not a woman. I can't relate to a woman as hard as I can to a man. I've lived a male experience my entire life.
I mean, isn't that the argument for ultimately having more diverse presences?
Yeah, hold on. That idea of representation is, of course, we wouldn't expect men to relate to women, much the same that when men tell women, well, just relate to the male main characters, we wouldn't expect that either. Like, representation is pretty important for people. People like to see people that resemble them on screen.
It's kind of tongue-in-cheek because I'm not going to watch the next James Bond movie anyway, but if it's a woman as James Bond, I'm 100% not watching it.
Okay, is it because it's a woman as James Bond?
You're going to watch it nevertheless.
Well, because it's part of this bigger push by the SJW progressive left to try to change everything to make the snowflakes happy, and oh my gosh, we've got to have diverse this and diverse that, and it's like, okay, so you're just, that's the part I don't like about it, is the intent behind it and the purpose behind it.
Wait, are you like a communist now? What the fuck?
What's wrong with pushing for diversity, dude?
Okay, wait. Wait. What you're talking about is literally the natural consequence of a free market system, right? Today, as a producer, right, you want to produce a good that can be consumed by as many people as possible. That's markets 101. We found out that women now, as they work more and they have jobs and they have disposable incomes, we want to appeal to them in as many ways as possible. One of the easiest ways to sell movies is to do remakes and to capitalize on previously existing franchises. This is the natural intersection. This is the natural intersection of market forces dictating a previous IP to be like recommissioned.
Okay, Destiny.
That was beautifully stated.
If they remake the movie and James Bond is a woman and it does better than all the other previous James Bond, then I'll say good for them. But that's not going to happen. I can guarantee it.
Now just to prove my
something like that.
I think
we did this once before, and it was with Captain Marvel. And that movie grossed over $1 billion. So it seems like there is the demand for it. We also did it on a race issue with Black Panther, and I'm pretty sure that movie also grossed over $1 billion.
We also did we do
free markets at work? Man, they should fucking remake movie
But what about?
It's dumb.
Wait.
Okay, even if it is the free market at work, it's my free market decision not to watch it.
Sure,
and Destiny, that's a little different because those characters were written as they were before the movie was made.
Captain Marvel gone back and forth between male and female?
Yeah, but she's been both. That's what I'm saying. So it's okay for her to be a female in the movie, and Black Panther's always been black. So I mean, they're not changing something drastically.
As Black Panther
altering a 60. They're not altering a 60-year fan base.
This stuff is not reflective of culture. Hollywood is not reflective of culture. They're trying to change the culture. They're trying to push this stuff on us. And if you doubt that, look at the ratings for all of the award shows like Oscars and all that crap. Look at how many people in Hollywood actually voted for Trump compared to how many Americans voted for Trump. They're totally disconnected from the reality of the American people, and they're trying to push this like, radical SJW culturalism stuff on us, and it's not reflective of the free market, and I reject that notion.
This type of conspiracy.
1 second, Bastien. Hold on.
Yeah,
go ahead, Destiny.
This type of conspiracy.
It's fact.
It's not, and it totally betrays like a misunderstanding of all of the funding mechanisms of all of the ways that these things are funded. It doesn't make sense. Like there is a lot of money behind Hollywood, unless you literally think Soros himself is walking in and writing these fucking checks to like destroy culture.
No, it's a natural.
Holy shit.
Wait, can I say something here?
Money into projects to make
market
money.
trends.
Like
There's
that's all
what
that's
works
happening.
in
But the thing about the recording academies, the
so
Grammys, I'm taking this quote from NPR and it's perfect. They're too male, too white, too old, and too insular, and that's why we keep seeing this shit over and over. And that's why this happened with the recording academy president of the Grammys getting suspended, even though someone sexually assaulted her. It's still an old white dude controlled platform.
So what I'm curious about is, why do you think these people would take a $125 million loss? Do you think they're doing it to push a political agenda? Do you think they're like, who? And if so, who is funding that?
I'll tell you why.
Because nobody has taken a $125 million loss for the goodness of the world alone.
I'll tell you why. It's the same reason CNN and MSNBC keep doing the same garbage, even though they get destroyed by Fox News in the rating. And you know what the reason is? Is because it's more important for them that they appear woke and are popular and are having fun on the cocktail party circuit than it is to make money.
A lot of these huge companies that are like publicly traded and shit, like literally wouldn't even be allowed to squander their funds pushing this type of like cultural revisionism. Like you would literally get sued by like your board of directors if people found out you were wasting money like that. Like it's this idea that like people in these boardrooms are just throwing away hundreds of millions or billions of dollars in cash to like try to change the culture. You're basically at like the Jewish question at this point.
Hold on.
You really believe in this level?
Hold on, Destiny. Just out of curiosity, do you think that where society is today came into account when they made the decision to change the Ghostbusters cast?
Absolutely. I think it's a two-way process. Hollywood shapes culture a little bit. Culture shapes Hollywood a little bit. Hollywood is not going to come out and show this insane fucking shit to like push the fucking boundaries like so fucking much or whatever. Every now and then you might see something like that, but for the most part, it's going to track what the culture thinks.
While broadcasting last week, Bad Bunny explained to her chat that she needed monetary support to continue creating content on Twitch. And when her viewers didn't respond with an influx of subscription, she lashed out at them, fuming that they watch hours of content for free without paying for it. And I quote, $5. How do you have hours of time to watch me and not $5? I have a wall of non-subs. This is actually really heartbreaking because people really do not respect me as a content creator. Now, in the spirit of fairness, I will state that I think that it came out later that she said she was joking. So that's what she said. She said it was a joke and a long-standing joke. Now hold on, let's watch the clip here. Let's watch the clip. There was a tremendous amount of outrage everywhere. Let's watch the clip of the incident right here, and then we can to provide some context for the situation. And then we can talk about it. Here we go. Here is Bad Bunny talking to her chat, which allegedly was a joke. Here we go.
How did my whole speech about how I need subs to keep the stream going, if you like the content, blah, 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 how that results in 0 subs? There are regulars here. $5 a month. How are you have hours of time to watch me and not $5? I don't know. What are you doing with your life where you have hours of time to watch Twitch and not $5 to provide for the content that you're watching?
Is there anything wrong with what happened here? I'd be curious to hear what people have to say. Lucid Fox, go ahead and respond.
Again, at the end of the day, why does this matter? Everyone does this on this website. Everyone panders for fucking content. Literally the only reason this got as big as it did is because these fucking idiots like Carnage and larger streamers shared it around. Because why? They wanted a virtue signal for fucking money.
I agree.
I don't think you should have talked about. And guess what that got them? More subscribers.
You know
it's
what?
wild. I could never treat you like that.
Yeah, but have they ever done the crazy fucked up shit that she has done?
Who gives
This is the
fuck?
difference.
What's your fucking
who
metric?
gives a fuck? Your message, it doesn't fucking matter anymore? The things you put in people's brains don't matter? How are you going to be sitting here and tell me your message doesn't matter?
It is interesting to hear a left-wing argument that basically the messaging doesn't matter. Everybody does this anyway. It's just a meme, so who cares?
Yeah.
One at a time. One at a time.
Where's my
Go
free
ahead.
market boys at?
I agree with you. I agree that this is a free market expression.
Yeah.
I celebrate anyway. You want to do this on this website. That's what you want to do, and people respond. Clearly, they like it because again, now it's a clear clear meme. People still enjoy doing it. Whatever, that's fine. But I mean, the notion that this is that the message doesn't matter. That is kind of a new message as far as those on Twitch who are not enamored with free markets.
The issue with
Peach, raise your hand if you want to get in. Peach, go ahead. Peach, go ahead. Queen Peach wants to speak. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I have a quiet voice.
Go ahead.
I just think that she knew what she was saying. She's obviously going to get clipped for that.
That's what she's trying to do.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think anyone specifically doing this makes it a problem. It's compounded from what she's done in the past and the type of person she's proven to be, which is why I condemn her for doing further actions that I see as scummy.
I'm so jealous of her because
it's not that
You're
she's
bought into the idea that she's a scumbag, so you want to go after her. I get it. No, that makes sense.
It's not this idea of her passion or whatever, but this idea that who cares? I mean, we're all on Twitch. Whenever anybody does anything, we obviously talk about it, right?
Sure.
So if you have somebody that's going real fucking hard, shitting on their audience for not participating in her career, which is something she's done multiple times in the past, it's not really surprising that people are going to blow her up over it. It's pretty funny to see somebody literally shitting on their viewers because they're not subscribing enough.
Last I checked, she's got 600 viewers over the past couple of days. So why does it matter?
Wait, why does wait? What does that argument mean? Why does it matter? Because she did something that's really stupid.
So everyone's outraged, right? So I need to understand what the outrage comes from.
The outrage is just if somebody did something that's what do you mean? This idea that outrage accomplishes something is really stupid. You would be that guy where you're driving down the street and then some other guy over there, pisses on a wall. And then you're fuck, this is so horrible. Why is he pissing on the wall? That's disgusting. And then you're what does that anger accomplish?
No. Okay.
Really matter? I don't know. I mean, I guess it doesn't really, in the grand scheme of things, matter that much. But it's somebody's doing something.
Let me frame it for you better. In the context of this website, if this isn't going to negatively affect how we gain viewers. In fact, last time I checked, she pulled over 20,000 follows, millions of views on Twitter. Overall, I think she's actually done the website Twitch a service. She's been on Hee Productions, or H3H3. She's been on. She's gained people for the Twitch website.
You know
what?
Let Destiny respond. Destiny, go ahead.
Do you feel like the
Let Destiny respond. Bastion got healed. Bastion.
Ice Poseidon has gained viewers for the website.
Sure.
What is that argument? Just because somebody gains views for the website, they're beyond reproach? They can't be criticized anymore? That doesn't logically follow at all.
Not. I'm saying the criticize exists, but if the criticize isn't going... Okay, so if the criticism isn't going to default to, her getting canceled by somebody, obviously the criticism is valid, but does it accomplish a goal?
Criticism doesn't
wait, lose it.
I'm just going to go take a piss. I'll be right back.
Most people that are criticizing her right now on Twitter are literally doing it for the same reasons. Dr.
You know what? It's probably that's why he's speaking like this.
Wait, no. Dr. Disrespect made the joke to make fun of Badbunny.
Dr. Disrespect got hundreds of Prime subs when he made the joke.
Because people understood that he
make
was
money.
Joking. Yeah, because he was doing it while joking. But I mean,
look at this. Give me money too.
And you're criticizing. Wait, why are you mad? Why does it matter? Why are you criticizing him? Why does it matter?
No, I'm saying I'm not criticizing. I'm
just saying that's such a weird deflation.
I understand how the business aspect of this website works.
Sure, if most people were to look at Bad Bunny's behavior, they'd probably say, "Wow, that's pretty toxic. That's a pretty shitty way to treat your audience," and then they would talk about it. That's it. There's nothing deeper. You don't need what is your goal to reform the world? How are we reaching utopia through this?
Oh no. Okay, so I guess my end comment then is just the people that are calling for her to be deplatformed, the people that are calling for her to be off the website.
That's stupid. If you're calling for that, that's dumb as fuck. You can make fun of her though for being weird as fuck.
You can.
Is it okay to play? I don't know what any of us other people play for more money.
What do you mean?
What?
Wait, what's that,
Playing
Casey?
games and playing
I don't
victim
know.
are two totally different
saying
things.
we all like pander for subs in different
Absolutely.
ways.
Wait, no, hold on. This is all
Casey,
pandering is
aren't
not
you
the
your-
same.
wait,
That's such a
aren't you being
stupid
so-
Wait, one second, one at a time.
That's like walking out and mugging someone and being like, oh well, you know, all of us
Everyone
have
makes
to make
money.
money.
That's not
LOL.
mugging
Like that's such a
someone.
stupid.
She's not
Wait,
breaking.
wait, I'm not
people
saying
down
she's
to
mugging
ATM
someone. I'm not
and
saying she's
stealing
mugging
money
someone.
from them.
I'm not saying she's stealing or mugging anybody. Okay, it was a comparison to say that you can't say that all of these types of things are the same way because they make money. Okay, yeah. Are there people that do sub trains and have subathons and blah blah blah? Yeah, sure. People do that because hopefully the idea is that there's like a value out there for the viewer. They want to like take part in some shit. Blah blah blah. There's also a lot of other exploitative behavior too. I'm sure that happens. But like nobody here is gonna say that like, hey guys, it's a sub train. Cool, we're gonna do sub train. Is the same thing as like, man, you guys are fucking assholes for not fucking subbing to me. You guys aren't invested in my fucking career.
So
Fuck
I actually,
you guys.
I have an interesting idea about that because if her community is consenting to the way that she acts towards them versus the idea of actually manipulating dopamine response in the brain with the current hype train on the website, like we've literally been playing gambling games for years now with bits, with hype trains. Those things
But the problem is her
actually-
community doesn't.
Yeah, but you know what?
But that's the thing. Like those things actively manipulate our brains. She's got, last I checked, over 1,000 subs. So it sounds like it works.
It sounds like you're saying
Destiny, go ahead and respond.
One of the problems though is that like her community doesn't enjoy it. It's a
Interesting,
complaint
Wes.
that she has constantly that like, oh, my community is not loyal enough. Oh, people cycle in and out of my community too much. Like, so the idea that it's like working out really well for her is clearly not true if you go by the complaints that she makes constantly on her stream.
Okay, no, I just really have a question. I just feel like we all, you know, like have different ways of pandering and manipulating our audience is all and I feel like to a certain degree manipulation at base value is all bad, isn't it? Or is some manipulation okay?
No,
I'm
right.
really
It
just trying
depends
to
on what-
understand.
We're
It
always
depends on the type of manipulation you're talking about.
we're always
So it's
manipulating
okay
people.
to
We're
manipulate
aware of
people
inherent
in a
parasitic relationships
positive
with our
way?
people.
Yep.
It's okay to manipulate people in a positive way or a
Destiny,
way
give
that
me
you
an
seem
Yes.
grateful.
So, like for instance, when we have
have you ever
commercials
felt-
on that say "Don't drink and drive," that's manipulation, but we would consider that manipulation in a positive way.
Okay then, and maybe you're above it, maybe you're not. Have you ever felt bad when somebody like tier 3 subs and gives you hundreds of dollars and you're not sure whether or not they have it?
Fuck no.
Do you say something
I
about
felt-
that?
I
Do
felt
you
bad, I
refund
felt
it,
bad,
or do you
yes.
If
take
they
it
email
anyways?
me, yeah, I've done
Yeah.
that in the past.
They
I've
can
had a
ask
couple
to do
people
it,
that have
yeah.
had like big donations. Yeah,
E-
sure.
the claim that I heard, okay, this is what I'm regurgitating what I heard in the fairness of a spirited debate, okay? That I heard that it was a joke, and this is a common joke that's used in her community, similar to what, you know, people, you know, do. So does that change the context of this at all, in your opinions?
Not for the people that want dunks, absolutely not. It doesn't,
It may be a
matter
joke,
if it's a
sure.
joke.
Well,
for
it's
people
not-
that want
it's
to
a
do
joke.
that.
When it's a joke made in public.
Like I said,
I would
it's
like
just,
to submit another clip for evidence.
What?
it's
No,
just
can
another
I say
example.
something?
Tell me
Of
if this
her
sounds like a
background.
joke. Play it, Raj. Tell me if this sounds like a joke.
But you're talking about taking another clip when it's literally a running gag in her channel.
Yeah, I just want to hear if
You're
this
like,
sounds
oh,
like a
I can
running
show
gag.
more evidence of the
Anyway,
jokes
go
in her
ahead.
channel. Ah,
Yeah,
very
let's
cool.
see. This might be a joke. Let's hear it.
What
Go.
is a
Play
joke?
the clip, Raj.
You know how many people in my Discord this morning were like, oh wow, I missed some good memes last night. Like, I want to say 80% of the people talking to me actively in my Discord weren't watching the stream. You guys fucking make me sick.
Nice.
Wait, what happened to Bunny in Florida? Can someone link it? I was watching. Makana was watching. The way we went back to smoking and quietly pointing fingers. Let's just watch it together. How about that? Sorry, guys. I'm being like probably way too hostile with you right now because I'm just like I've had it. This is an accumulation of like resentment to people in my community for not being proactive, and then it actually affects my fucking career. Like it actually is a tangible monetary fucking longevity of my ability to be a streamer affecting my career. So it's like kind of like annoying to me.
Okay.
You know what-
So anyway, I think we've
Yeah.
listened to the full clip, but Desi,
I think
I mean, it doesn't sound like she's joking. Like she has these like.
at the end of the day, I like regardless if she's joking or not. What she said it for views. She said it to get more traction, which is I feel like we can all agree on. Is it bad? Is it good? I don't fucking know what she said. Sounds like a fucking bitch.
do you really think that she did? Like, do you think that she deliberately would have done that just to get a clip that would have gone viral? Do you think that was like the deliberate
I think what she's doing is I think what she's doing is trying to get more traction. That's what I think.
Yes, she's trying to farm super hard.
God, Destiny's coming for another career. Man. He's hungry.
Lucid.
I got 4 more clips ready to go.
Oh my God, Jesus.
Oh my God.
So
he's gonna do it again.
So Destiny, what the reason you provided that context is the fact that it wasn't a joke. Is that what you're trying to say? That
no,
you
she
don't think
makes
it was?
comments about these about her community. Like all
she talks about how hard it is.
Okay, Lucid Fox, go ahead. You're probably
okay.
Go ahead.
It's just, no, I just like you're just like linking like, oh, this is another instance where she said like shitty things.
No, it wasn't another instance, Lucid. It was about the same shit, dude.
Oh no!
She's
Wow, not
80%,
that.
No, she's saying
it's almost
80%
like she
of
talks
her
like
community.
that all the time, and people
listen,
respond to it.
she's
It's like
saying
we've been
80
over this already.
No,
it's
not.
literally what her
because this isn't the
responds
joke.
to.
This is what happens after the joke, where she doesn't say it's a joke. She doesn't play it off. She explains that 80% of the people weren't there, and they need to take it seriously because it's fucking with their money, the longevity of her being a streamer. I don't understand how you can stand by this being a joke. But regardless, if it's a joke or not, it's still predatory. It's still she's harassing and like being vocally and verbally abusive to her audience.
Money from
She's being fucked up.
They literally are coming back for the content, Wes.
No one comes back, Lucid. That's why she goes. She has 150 average viewers, and then has a big clip, pipes up to 500-600, and then it drops off.
When, Wes?
The N-word drama 2 years ago with the same fucking drama.
Are you crazy? Wes, do you really think people start drama like this just for viewers? Do you think that's the case?
No.
I don't think a lot of the time they start it, but sometimes they do. But when they do, they milk it. 100% they milk it. That's why she's playing the victim and how it's really hard to be a streamer and she needs this money. It's not a joke, guys. It's so glaringly obvious.
The Church of England, is under fire for saying that sexual relationships outside heterosexual marriage are regarded as falling short of God's purpose for human beings. Their solution for Christians in gay or civil, straight civil unions is abstinence. Okay, is what they say. The question I have here is,
at least not trying to go in shock therapy anymore.
Does anybody disagree? I don't think anybody's gonna. I don't even know why this is a topic.
Well, wait a minute. What? I mean, maybe.
It's your topic.
Let's finish it. Yeah, I might have something to say about that.
House to homophobe. Let's go, Raj.
Resident sleeper.
Does the Church of England? I don't think the Church of England has any authority. And the other question is, why does the Church of care who I have sex with? Okay,
I'll play devil's advocate. Fuck gay. Never mind.
Okay. Whoa. All right. No, I want to go into an abortion topic here. Do you think?
Oh wait, I'll get here. Actually, I can give like an interesting perspective on this. Sometimes when you see communities make statements like this, now this is a little irresponsible. I don't know exactly how the Church of England works, but I know that for the Catholic communities that I was a part of growing up, that when you see them make statements about gay people, like, okay, listen, gay people, you can be in relationships, but like you can't like fuck each other. That's a sin. That's actually a huge step forward in terms of how at least Catholics would view gay people, because it used to be that if you were gay, you're fucked. That's like a one-way ticket to hell instantaneously. Nobody wants you in the the processions. Nobody wants you going to church. Nobody wants you in their schools. Like it's like really bad. But then when the Catholic Church is like, okay, listen, hate the sin, not the sinner. Like you can be gay. That's cool. That's your own struggle. Just don't like actually fuck a guy. Like that's actually like progress. Now I don't know if it's pretty inflexible, the text of the Bible. If you're ever gonna get to a point where like, okay, full on fucking gay relationships are a-okay, God approved. I don't know if we'll get there, but maybe this might be a step forward for the Church of England if they're at least acknowledging the existence of gay people.
Progress.
Candy, go ahead.
Yes. Okay, so I want to say something to the Church of England. I want to say that I think it's really cute. No, I think it's really cute when two guys kiss each other. So I think that you should.
Very progressive. Lecture fan, go ahead.
Consider it, Church of England.
Lecture fan, go ahead.
Yeah, well, the thing that this is supposed to be somehow controversial or new or something is preposterous. What the Church of England said is the same traditional sexual moral values that Western society and Christians have held for 2,000 years, and Jews for thousands of years before that, and Muslims today as well. It's like there's nothing new about that, nor is there anything controversial about it. That's just traditional sexual values that thousands and millions of people around the world subscribe to.
I think
I have no problem with having traditional sexual moral values. Absolutely not.
All right, so you have no
the problem
issue
is
with
the
the government
government
just shouldn't be involved.
I think that
Well,
there's
I'm not super familiar with what role the Church of England has with respect to the government. But if the Church of England is a church and they want to have moral values, they have every right to do so. And lots of people worldwide have the same exact sexual moral values. It's the only place that this is new or controversial is Twitch. Everywhere else, it's just normal.
Wait, hold on.
England doesn't even want to be in EU.
That's not
Go away, England.
Destiny, do you want to come back to that?
Well, I mean, like, there's what's the name of the highest court in the land that said that gay marriage was okay? There's a name for it, the extreme court. I don't remember what it was, but I'm pretty sure that that's a thing that exists outside of just video games. Like, gay rights and LGBT communities are a pretty big part of like Western society today, even outside of America.
Yeah, but the Supreme Court's not opining on spiritual or moral issues. That's what the Church of England is.
Religious people that aren't like offended by it, that don't think it's wrong, that are Christian and think it's okay. It is a thing. It's not.
Yeah, I think the problem though is just that like the Church of England is a little bit more a part of the government. It's a part of the government in the United Kingdom or in Great Britain. Or,
yeah,
I don't know
like
if
its
they
measures, the measures of the Church of England have to be approved by, like Parliament. Like the practices of it, they to some degree there's some exceptions, but it
so it's
is
a little weird
tied
that your
into the
state
government.
religion is like
Yeah.
fuck gay people.
Well, okay,
so
have a state religion, then you have a
they
whole
don't
other
want fuck
So hey, let me ask you guys this then: when the U.S. Senate opened the impeachment trial with a prayer, were you guys opposed to that?
Yes.
Yeah,
Wait, but hold on. But do you think that are you opposed to it, lecture fan?
No, of course not.
Okay, but isn't there a separation of church and state?
The word separation of church and state does not appear in the U.S. Constitution. What the word says is that the federal government shall not establish a religion, and that has a very specific understanding and meaning. And having the U.S. Senate have a prayer on the opening of the impeachment trial is not the same as establishing a religion.
Wait, stop, shut the fuck up. That is not what the First Amendment says. It says
Yes, it does.
It says respecting an establishment of religion, not just establishing their own religion. So the idea that like we would have like official religious proceedings in a courtroom just because it's not like a religion created by the government, it doesn't make it okay. Like our government is supposed to be a-religious. It's not supposed to have like Christianity like woven throughout it. That is
okay. So you guys are pissed off at the
that
U.S.
as a
Senate,
matter
then.
of fairness. I mean, how?
Yeah,
could that...
sure. Yeah, I don't think like swearing in on the Bible or any shit like that. Like you
should all
swear
be
to the
taken out.
Constitution. Like your loyalty is to the United States of America, not to a
your
Bible.
loyalty
or not
is
for
to the
anything.
fucking Christianity which you grew up on. That's bullshit.
Lecture
There should be
fan.
nothing about your religion that influences the way you rule a country or you go in your proceedings.
Well, I wouldn't say
growing
that-
up.
we
Your
can't think-
morality is shaped by your religion a lot, which I think is okay, barring like homosexual, like certain negative moral beliefs. But like religion as a whole should never be a determining factor on the way you go.
So you're an anti-religious bigot. Okay, cool.
Wait,
What's bigoted about what I said?
Saying
Lecture, what is bigoted about what I said?
Because you just basically said, if you believe in religion, fuck you, get your shit out of here, get it out. I don't like it. I don't support it.
No.
If
It's not what he's
a
saying.
federally funded institution, my tax dollars do not have to go to places that support beliefs that may or may not be bigoted. Like saying I'm against gay people. That's actually a bigoted belief.
Yeah.
Saying that I don't want my tax dollars to support a religious institution that might represent values that are dramatically different than what I have, that's not bigoted. That's called public funding, right? Public funding has responsibilities. That is what we're talking about. We're talking about like the Senate. We're talking about money that goes to public programs. We're talking about like procedures in public offices. These are public places. They should be a-religious. It's not bigoted to insist that these are a-religious places. If you want to have like a rosary with you want to say a personal prayer, that's fine. But for you to demand that you should be able to say a prayer or force me to swear on a fucking Bible or whatever religious, like that's really fucking weird. And my public money doesn't.
You don't have to be sworn in on a Bible. What I'm talking about is the U.S. Senate having a prayer before the impeachment trial, which they did and which they do. There's actually a case in front of the U.S. Supreme Court this session from Montana that has to do with a school voucher that went to a religious school. And a lot of these Blaine amendments that prohibit public funding from going to religious schools actually go back to anti-Catholic religious bigotry of the 1800s. And there's a specific legal argument going on right now before the U.S. Supreme Court that says public money going to a religious institution that is otherwise going to any institution that applies for it. So any private school can get a school voucher, let's say, and there's one of them that's a Christian and gets your public funding. That's not a violation of the First Amendment.
Sure. So I mean, we can look and see how that plays out. We can
racial-
look and see how that plays out in the Supreme Court right now. But in terms of like demanding prayers in public places, in 1962, we already settled that in the Supreme Court. The public schools weren't allowed to like compel people to pray as well, which is more comparable to this than how we fund like school vouchers.
Well, I know, I get that, but that's not. I mean, what I was talking about was the U.S. Senate doing it to push back on this idea that there's there's separation of church and state, which is not in the U.S. Constitution.
Do you believe that private insurers should be required to cover abortion? Does anybody believe that they should be able to?
Yes, of
Does
course.
abortion cost money?
Yes.
Are you
In
saying
America,
they should be
everything
able
costs
to,
money.
or should be
Yeah.
required?
They should be able to, but
In Sweden,
Should they be
abortion-
should they be required to cover abortion?
Of course not. No, the federal government shouldn't be forcing people to pay for things that are morally indefensible. Of course not.
I mean, half the country is convinced it's
agree.
murder. I mean, I
Wait,
don't
so
think
what
you
do you
can
do?
require
What do
that
you,
thing.
wait. So what do you do when you live in a city that's full of some religion that believes that, say, blood transfusions are illegal? Should they not be required to do that? Or that believe that vaccines are immoral? Should they not be required to do that? Like, where do we draw the line on that?
No, I don't believe in the government forcing people to do things if they're genuinely and sincerely held religious beliefs. I don't think the government should force them to violate that. And that's the standard that you apply. It has to be genuine and sincerely held religious belief.
But like, how far can you go down that road with religious beliefs? Like, what if you have like a private business or whatever, and then in your business you decide that you don't want any like women to ever be allowed to come in or something? If it's like a restaurant, if there's not like a good reason for it, like.
Right, so your right goes as far until you start violating other people's rights, and then you don't have the right to violate other people's rights.
Well,
but
Okay, so if you have like an employee-based like health insurance program at your job, and then a medical emergency comes up and you have to get a blood transfusion, and they don't agree with that religiously, you're just fucked. Or where are your rights here?
Well, I don't know about the what we're talking about is abortion, and are you saying like we're talking about the federal government forcing private companies to pay for abortions? Is what we're talking
about the federal government compelling you to provide what we all consider to be a legal medical procedure to its clients. Abortion is a legal medical procedure, the same way as blood transfusions are. There are multiple religions that view taking other types of fluids in your body.
Okay, so there's two,
like that as- Sure.
Well, there's two reasons I'm against it then. There's two reasons I'm against it. One, I don't think that federal government should be forcing private companies to do anything. And then second of all, especially if that second thing violates a sincerely held religious belief. Like
so when you say
abortion
they
does.
shouldn't be forced to do, are you like pro like if businesses decide they want to be segregated, no more black people allowed? You think that companies should have a right to be able to make those decisions on their place of business?
Because the 14th Amendment explicitly authorizes Congress to make laws to prohibit
It doesn't. Wait a minute. There's something important though. The 14th Amendment may authorize Congress to pass laws like that, but the 14th Amendment doesn't require or doesn't forbid private businesses from engaging in, like segregating themselves.
Discriminatory practices.
It was the 1960 Civil Rights Act, among others, that stopped that. And I mean, so that's ultimately a policy choice. And I think you can draw a distinction between, say, abortion and racism and make a point that, for example, racism was pushed on the United States by the government, by force, for the better part of 300 years. And so to try and undo some of that legacy, you need some government action in the reverse. But the abortion situation, I think, is very different.
To say that the government ought to come in and force everybody to pay for everybody else's abortion is truly preposterous. And it's not going to happen. And thank goodness President Trump is the president.
Why is it preposterous? Why is it not going to happen?
Because lots of people think abortion is murder, and so you're forcing somebody to do what they pay for, what they believe to be as murder, which is terrible.
If you have something morally that is keeping you from performing a job, you probably just shouldn't do that job. That's a pretty
exactly.
thing.
I'm down with that. Yeah, people quitting jobs.
If you have a moral conviction that causes you to be opposed to abortion, it's pretty fucking stupid for you to get involved in a healthcare industry where abortion is a legal.
Exactly. That's why a lot of people don't do it.
They shouldn't do the fucking job, not the people who are insured by them shouldn't be insured by them. You have it viewed wrong.
Wait a minute. So is your point here, Destiny? Is your point that you can't push back on this? I guess without trying to make abortion illegal.
Basically, yeah. Abortion is like something that's offered legally, just like that's was it.
Not in all situations.
What was that's not relevant to this at all. What was the name of the lady that Michael Huckabee showed up to champion, who was like denying like marriage certificates to gay people or whatever?
Oh, him something in
Kentucky clerk.
Yeah, whatever that that idiot, right? Like if she didn't want to provide them certificates, that's fine, but she shouldn't be working that job, right? If you're working for a business, you're doing something, and there's like legal procedures that you ought to be covering, then you should cover them. If you're opposed to that, then don't do it. Then
what you're talking about with Kim Davis is the government. I mean, and the government is paid for by everybody and has to represent everybody.
Okay. Hey guys, we got to wrap this topic up. We got to vote.
I just want to say one thing really quickly.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
soon. Candy, you're fucking really hot. So if you wanna like hang out sometime, like I would really like it. Oh my god, are you kidding me? Yes.
Wow.
Really? Yes, I would love to. Yay! Okay, that's
Peach, are you like what sort of are you well, never mind. I mean, I don't know.
Well, you know, for what it's worth, Raj, this subject.
Beautiful women, and she's just so fucking hot.
Yeah.
Okay,
You're so beautiful.
Okay,
right.
but I just
Yeah,
want to
sure,
say,
what's up?
like, if we could just like hang out sometime, like, I
The
would.
subject you picked here, Raj, is super interesting because the
are you coming to
there
Amsterdam?
One
are
second,
so many,
Bastia. Let the girls speak real quick.
I don't know. I don't think so. I haven't booked my ticket yet, but.
Come there. Come there.
Are you guys like what sort of meeting are we talking about here?
I just think she's so hot.
Are you
Why can't I just...
if you don't mind me asking, tell me if I'm over the line.
Me too.
Are you bisexual?
Jesus Christ.
Is that wrong?
She's
Married, Rob. She's married, right?
Oh.
I don't really think about myself as a bisexual, but I like touching women.
Oh.
Does that make me
No,
bisexual?
I mean, no.
I don't know.
It makes you know what, Peach? It
You
makes
be
you whatever you
wanna
want to.
be, just-
I would
just-
like to
I
be
love-
lost.
Just put it on a subscription service somewhere.
No,
No, I just was saying. I just think she's beautiful, and I really like her.
You know what?
so-
I'm sorry. I shouldn't label it. All right, you label it whichever way you
Label
want.
what the hell you want. Just let me know, please.
I
I've
think
noticed
the
that ever
subject
since
you
you've come out, Raj, you're trying to make everything about that. Like, is there like a reason why?
True, actually. Raj, true.
Wait, what?
Anyway, when did
Is it-
Raj come out? I
He's
thought he
getting
was
so in touch with his sexuality.
Is there anything
everything's
wrong with
sex now
being
for you,
mostly
Raj.
gay, bisexual, like myself?
No,
Destiny?
but you're just like, well, now that I have my declared title, I'm gonna know everyone else's title, and I need you to label.
Wait, Wes, what are you
He
talking
feels
about?
free.
I
He's
was just
free.
wondering. I was just wondering. What is that?
It feels like
Yeah.
ever that you're projecting your gayness
He's
all
free.
around you, Raj, and it's making all of us really
Leave
uncomfortable.
him alone. He's free.
I'm free. I'm free from these chains. Okay, nobody thinks I'm straight
Did
anymore.
you know you were
Oh, so
gay?
people that
You
are
had an
straight are
all-female wrestler?
Wow.
Yes.
I'm
Good
just
one,
They're
Raj. All
chained,
straight men
they're
are
chained by
chained up.
heteronormativity.
Oh, fuck off. I like being heteronormative. Doesn't bother
I
me
just
a
want to say,
damn
Raj,
bit.
before we completely
Wes, you
forget the
talked about
last
your porn
subject.
preferences. You are not heteronormative.
It was a popular LSF clip this week when a Twitch streamer and occasional Raj guest, Invader V, talked about how she creeps on all of her donators, including Googling and LinkedIn snooping. She went on to give an age range, relationship status, and common career of her average supporter. The question that I have to you is, do you find this disturbing or an invasion of privacy
That's a bit weird.
of your donators? Does anybody find this interesting at all?
Well,
It's demographic research.
I do this, dude. I do this shit all the time. Everybody does this. Come on, really?
That's a bit creepy to me.
Wait, Destiny, you do this?
Yeah.
Hell yeah! Somebody's talking shit. They donate to me. I get that PayPal. I look up on Facebook. I see who is this motherfucker. Amen. Every fucking time. It makes me feel so
Wait, no,
better
but
about
this-
myself
Wow.
when I see that the guy making fun of me is like some. I can't say anything without being never mind. But
If you're not smart enough to protect your own personal identity when you give money to streamers, you deserve this to happen to you.
Can I just
Well,
say
you can
something
make a
really
distinction
quickly?
between doxing the information and just
Yeah.
discovering it yourself. I mean,
It's not
and I think
doxing.
just
You gave
discovering
money to that
yourself-
person, and you have your
Yeah, I
name
get
attached.
that.
You know
Well,
they can look you up. They're not
I think
doxing you.
there's-
She didn't name anyone.
Wait,
Well,
what are you
let me
saying,
ask
Wes?
this.
Are you-
Let me ask you this: Destiny or Wes? Do you think? I mean, would you ever like publicly share that information?
Hell no.
it depends.
Destiny
what
would.
No.
And then he would
Okay,
get
so
paid
you
off
should- you
a
should
complete
donate.
Can I say
business.
something really quickly?
Destiny
Yeah,
would.
Peach.
No.
I want Peach to
No,
say
no,
something. She
let
hasn't
me
been
tell you
able
what
to
Destiny
get a
would
word
do.
in
Wait,
edgewise.
real quick. On a serious matter, no, you don't share the information. Obviously, that's super
Yeah,
awful.
okay.
Fuck
Destiny
So,
would
I mean, I think
threaten to
that's-
kill them and threaten to go to their house and kill them and get permabanned off League.
It depends
okay?
on,
He's way
depends
worse
on what
than
they
me.
do. Okay.
Every time someone donates $12 to me, I'm not gonna go, I wonder what that asshole's up to. But I think the way V was doing it is a little yikes. I don't think it's like unethical or anything.
I don't
She
know
said
why
she
she
creeps
did
all
it,
of her
but-
big donators, which is I think she's memeing, to be honest.
That seems like you could easily justify that as a even if you needed to, which I don't think you knew, but you could justify that, especially somebody in her position, as a matter of personal safety. Like you want to maybe make sure that these people aren't dangerous.
Or you don't even need to do that. You could just be curious and you look it up.
Yeah,
I think she was
as long
really
as you
I've
don't,
never done it. I've never done it.
She was
As long
really
as you, like,
stupid to say it in the first place because
Yeah,
now
as
people
long
are
as
going to
you-
be less likely to donate to her.
Yeah, as long as you don't
I don't
share the
know.
information or whatever, who cares? Like, I don't know.
Who has the
Or
time
maybe
to
someone
do
will
it,
put like
though?
a rich person's name under their PayPal, so she looks it up, and then they like send her. She sends them a bunch of nudes because they think they're super rich. Maybe someone could finesse this.
Wow.
Okay.
It's actually a really good idea. Holy shit. Hold on.
But
Is Warren Buffett at gmail.com? Is that taken for PayPal?
Pokimane recently cued into a game of Fortnite with a guy whose girlfriend took exception to him playing with her. She says, "Is your girlfriend actually mad or just joking mad?" Pokey asked before being told that she was actually mad at the guy she was playing with. Her random duo then seemingly came under attack from his partner as noises could be heard in the background. "Ow!" came over the mic. And then physical abuse in the home, says Pokey, called out before the random partner had to duck out and leave the game. Is it okay for our partners to dictate who we game with?
I find it really interesting how sort of this topic, and particularly the physical abuse topic, actually makes the SJW left and sort of the red pill manosphere right come together, because something like the red pill manosphere right always talks about is how female physical abuse against males is not taken so seriously, and something they always cite is the number of like abuse shelters and stuff like that. There's like tens of thousands of battered women shelters where women who have been abused physically can go to these shelters throughout the U.S. and a lot of times men can't go to those, and there's really not any shelters for men to go to get physically abused.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I'm not taking a position either side. I just find it interesting how like the SJW left and the manosphere red pill right is like on the same side here.
Don't be so docile. Take a position.
Suicide rates as well. I try to make this point again and again and again, and I thought I was going to be great friends with men. I met a men's what are they? Men's rights activists. We're gonna be best friends, and then I realized, oh, but you're super anti-feminist, and you don't understand how this fits into the patriarchy, and how this just reinforces our ideas of men as aggressors, as someone who's going to be.
Know he's a man. How do you know that?
It comes from your upbringing, dude.
Let them finish. Let Eva finish.
So I absolutely agree with you that we do agree on these points. It's just how it fits in the area, right? Like, how do we respond to this? How do we fix this? I wouldn't say more men's shelters. I absolutely think there should be shelters for everyone. But we look at, why are there women's shelters? Because it's a systematic problem. We have a particular way we belittle men who are being attacked this way, and it's probably underreported because of that. But it is a systemic problem that women are getting attacked more frequently because we have that view that men are attackers, aggressors, boys will be boys, etc., etc.
Lecture fan, I want to see what do you disagree with Eva on why?
Oh, the only thing I was going to disagree with Eva on is why sort of the male on female abuse is more prevalent. It's not because we have a perception that males are more physically abusive and therefore that's causing it to be that way. It's a natural result of the differences between males and females. Like I actually agree that males probably commit more physical abuse than females. It doesn't mean to say that you shouldn't take the female on male abuse seriously, but the reason that is because of the differences between males and females, not because of some societal perception of this being this problem.
If you wanted to dive into gender essentialism versus gender constructivism, what I'm going to say is you can't even look at the research on what is natural, because we are going always to have society's influence. If you know psychology, you know things are always going to be a mixture of culture and how you were brought up, or nurture and nature. But we can't see the impact that they're doing because they're always influencing each other unless we get this on like absolute babies, right? So why
baby fighting rings? Wait. Crack baby fighting rings.
No. Sounds like a market solution to me.
The research on that. But if you look in the media, if you look at how we treat men and what we expect of them, that we expect they can deal violence and take violence, but we don't expect that as women, we are pushing this narrative forward that's going to influence them to be more that way. And so we're trying to reduce that.
Also, I would like to keep in mind that like our question earlier wasn't why do men abuse women more than women abuse men? That wasn't the question. The question is why societally.
Yeah,
why do we?
Wait. Women abuse men too. In that.
No, we know.
The question was why do we treat it so differently? Why do we laugh when women do it, but then get upset when men do it? And that's the question that has to go back with like how do we identify these different like the way that the genders are supposed to act. The reason why MRAs and people on the extreme left seem to come together on this is because both of them can identify the problem, but the MRAs don't understand that toxic masculinity is a subset of like feminist ideology, meaning the roles that we place, the expectation we place on men are not only detrimental to women, but they're detrimental to men as well. For instance, consequences, men being scared of reporting mental illness, men being afraid of reporting domestic abuse. These are all subsets of other men's expectations of how other men act in society. And that's why it's hard for those people to come together, even though they seemingly have a common issue.
From like, as being a child for a lot of men, for I'd say the majority, that you're supposed to be raised strong, to not show weakness, to not cry. And it's even reinforced from women that don't want you to do the same things. So you have to break that down before any of this is ever going to change.
I disagree. I think the reason we take it on different levels of seriousness is because men are physically stronger than women, and so that's why people take it much more seriously when a man is abusing a woman.
No, wait, that's a good argument in terms of like how we should address it, like in levels of seriousness. That would explain it. If we were to be like, if a man is abusing a woman, that's really, really bad. If a woman is abusing a man, that's pretty bad, but maybe not quite as bad. But that's not how it's treated right now. How it's treated right now is when a man abuses a woman, that's fucking horrible. When a woman abuses a man, that's fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
you can have shows like The View where people are making jokes about a man's testicles being thrown in the
Yeah.
sink. You would never see the same thing in the tablespoon. So your explanation would work if there was only a discrepancy between how we treat it, not a completely binary, hilarious and not hilarious.
Yeah. Kandyland, are you excited to hang out with SD Peach?
Yes, I would love to hang out with her. Where did she go?
I don't know. I don't know. Did you just notice she was gone?
No, I know she went. I know. No, I just wish she would come here.
No.
You do?
Yeah.
Really? To Sweden?
Yeah, no, but I would love to hang out with her.
Would you?
Yeah, I would, Raj. Wait, but why are you saying it like that?
I'm just filling dead air. That's all.
This is a lot of fun today, Raj.
Wait, are you
It's
kidding me?
interesting,
Raj,
Raj,
get to
that
the
you came out
topics.
as a gay man and you're so interested in the potential lesbian activities of another two.
I didn't say I was
Really
fully
strange,
gay.
Raj.
Well,
That's
no,
just really
Destiny,
strange, Raj.
Destiny, I'm very straight, but I love when two guys are kissing. That's the cutest thing.
But you see, I'm an advocate. I'm an advocate for people engaging in exploring themselves sexually, Destiny. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Oh, you just seem really invested in the outcome of that exploration.
I
guess.
was just honestly, maybe I.
Yeah.
You
What
notice
were you
how
doing?
in
Were you
Raj's
thinking about ideas for a
intros
new
he
show,
always
Raj?
Are you
tries to show
challenging
off
my
his thick
sexuality
ass.
here, Destiny?
No, I think he's challenging your motives. Is this a matter of personal interest or of lucrative interest?
No, I don't think. I don't understand how I can benefit.
Just to be clear,
SD
somebody
Peach
told
is-
me
SD
just a moment ago that I said what I said to score points.
SD Peach is a as far as I'm aware, she's a married woman, and I'm not sure what the rules of her relationship
Wait, what does married
are.
have to do with it, Raj? You don't believe in? Oh, there's only one type of relationship.
No, I don't. No, that's not the
Crazy that you
case.
talked to me and Melina
you
face to
missed.
face,
Hold on,
and then you
Dusty.
come
You
on
missed
these
the second
shows.
part of what I said, and I said it's up to them to determine the rules of their relationship. That is consistent with what you think too, right?
The safe assumption.
Hey, Raj, I got a message for you. Ready?
What? Oh, okay. Back off, Destiny. No punch. Stop punching the camera. Earlier this week, Sodapoppin made a bait tweet where he said there are two genders after a viewer of his stream said that he would get banned for tweeting it. The tweet has since been deleted. I think that's very clear. So the question here that I want to ask is not, we're not debating whether there's two genders or not. Okay, that's not a debate we're having here. The question is, does baiting or joking excuse an edgy tweet? Is what I'd want to say. Let's start with Eva. Go ahead.
Absolutely not, because that's not stopping the people who are strolling into my chat all day, every day. They're still emboldened by this bullshit. This guy thinks he can just walk onto social media, and he can, and make statements like this that are used again and again in my chat as jokes and as not jokes, and it's exhausting. I'm tired of it. This emboldens them. It's not funny. We're not laughing.
Also, can I oppose the framing of this question? He's
Sure.
not baiting. He really does believe that.
Yeah.
So I reject the framing.
The second
100%.
question.
Argue
Hold
about
on.
it?
The second
Well,
Destiny. The second question that I have is the slasher had referenced in the Scuff podcast the clip that had surfaced of him saying that he believes that there are two genders or something like that. He actually believes it.
Yeah.
But I think the intent behind the tweet was to bait. Is that correct?
Sure, we could say that. Yeah. I think that's maybe probably true, rather than him trying to make some political statement for the intent. But don't sit here and pretend like, oh, well, I
Well,
don't
it was a
think
part
he
of my
actually blah, blah,
second
blah.
line of questioning. We were going to get to it anyway.
He's been spending a long time on the internet, but he's always been in gaming spheres. The only interaction he's ever had with Raj or any political people, barely, you could say, was when he did that one Raj dating show. But this guy spent his entire existence playing games, shit talking, shit posting. So he doesn't understand that his influence and the words that he speaks actually have impact. So he just shit posts and memes about it. So I understand what he's doing in that sense, that he's kind of oblivious to it. but he needs to understand that what he's saying actually does have impacts, and he has such a massive following that it has a much bigger impact than if, say, Lecture Fan were to go on Twitter and say, I hate gays or whatever.
Yeah, when I saw
What?
I was just trying to imagine something he would post.
He
on
didn't
Twitter.
say that, though. He didn't say that.
Wait, real quick. I
I
don't
just
think it's
looked to the guy
fair.
to my right, Lecture Fan.
Just because Lecture Fan is a Trump supporter
I
and
look
hates
to my
minorities
right.
and women doesn't mean he also hates gays.
Okay,
Wow,
come on.
Destiny. Slander.
Calm down, all right?
Straight up defamation
Let's get
right
our
there.
biases correct here, okay?
That's not true.
I think it's crazy that Eva said that if it's comedy, that's not excusable. I think that's ruining comedy. We're saying we're basically shutting down comedians to where now nobody can say a joke because the SJW cancel culture left is going to try to cancel them, and so now comedians are not even saying stuff anymore. I think that exposes the fascism of the left.
Fascism.
Wait.
You
Hold on.
can't
Firstly,
say-
that
Really?
has nothing to do with fascism. This is completely separated from whatever you think fascism means. Firstly. Secondly, like, people always bring up this comedy argument where we're defending the same fucking helicopter joke like a million fucking times. Like, is this really the best comedy that we have? The
Lecture
epitome of
Fan.
comedy is identifying as an Apache attack helicopter.
Well, you were the one that said it wasn't
And
even
it's funny, too,
comedy.
that's basically the only joke that conservatives seem to be able to tell about trans people is that basically the attack helicopter joke in a variety of
Lecture
different
Fan.
forms.
There are only two genders. No one fucking laughed.
Okay,
It's
that's
not
regardless
funny.
of the point.
I'm not
Lecture
killing-
Fan, multifaceted here. Yes, she's they're kind of right in that sense that it's shit comedy, but there's a big difference from a stand-up comedian walking on a stage and trying to do a comedic act versus a Twitch streamer largely known for his gameplay, just saying a blatant statement like that. You can't compare the two, because if it was like Dave Chappelle's statements, like his shit, which was called transphobic, I defend that to the day I die, because he's a comedian and his comedy is edge and he's hilarious while doing it. Sodapoppin is not known for his fucking comedy.
Well, wait
He's
a
been
minute,
around for
Wes.
10
It
years,
sounds
man.
like the argument you're making is basically that Sodapoppin is not good at it, and that Dave Chappelle is. That has nothing to do with the message behind it, does
Are
it?
you kidding me? Soda's super good at it.
But you have to understand a comedian. You don't take a comedian's jokes as something to influence how you feel towards things. Sodapoppin is such a massive streamer who has people who follow and agree with he says just because he says them and not because they're comedic jokes.
You think somebody like Dave
say
Chappelle, who is
something?
probably the most successful comedian, at least in recent American history, also has a following that might perhaps be influenced by some of the things he says?
But that's not the natural human. That's not how you treat a joke. You don't treat a joke to affect your morality and your statements or your stances on things.
But they do. Humor is very reflective of the culture of the people that are there. That's undeniable, right?
Humor, stand-up comedians are not changing the way people feel when it comes to societal issues based off their jokes.
But that's not true. Comedians are very much. Richard Pryor was, George Carlin was, and Dave Chappelle even is. Comedians can be at the forefront of like societal talk on certain types.
No,
of
because people shit on them for making the jokes, not because they're taking what they're saying seriously, like it's having some impact on the way people view certain groups in societies.
That's very context sensitive. I mean, that has to depend on what it's like. I mean, especially if it's a comedian who maybe their shtick is telling people things that like aren't politically correct or things that you're not supposed to say. I mean, that kind of comedy, I mean, while I'm not saying people should be prevented from doing it, sounds to me like it could just as well be kind of reinforcing people's existing prejudices.
I would love to see Eva talk to Sodapoppin about it.
Eva,
I would love it.
Not just your
Press 1, 2,
platform.
3 if you would
care so
watch.
much about the issues themselves, why didn't you try to reach out to them privately?
Because I have so many people in my life right now that I'm educating on this topic, right?
Who do you think's more
I can't just
important?
run around.
Ava,
who do I
do you
think's more
hold on,
important?
let me phrase the question. Who do you think's more
Probably
important?
the person in my
can I
house
phrase the question?
today.
Based off your platform, right? That's what you're talking about. Your message, what you push to the world. Who do you think's more important? Someone like in your chat, maybe someone in your family, or someone who has an audience of millions? What do you think has a bigger impact?
Person that I was talking to that lives in my house that was just saying that he thinks being gay is wrong. I am gonna put a little effort there.
That has a
And
bigger
it's
impact on
important
hold
to
on.
me
Yes.
because I'm fucking living.
Yes, Ava, that has a bigger impact on your personal experience. Yeah, you were just talking about your message that you're trying to push out there. It's your
And
brand,
that's what I do for my work, right?
That's what
I
I'm
can't be
saying.
working around the clock. Everyone just expects me to do education for all these cis people all the time. I have to do this constantly, Wes.
I'm expecting to reach out to
Maybe she
people
wants to
who
play
have
some
huge
League of
audiences.
Legends,
time
Yeah, Wes,
have
I
to
don't get your
explain
point.
my pronouns
Oh,
to
you don't get
someone
my
I'm
point?
educated.
Don't throw your dog, Wes. Jesus Christ.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not
just
talking about-
eliminated
Hold
his
on.
Like, they should
dog.
be free to educate who they
Reverse the
like.
roles.
And
The
that's
reason I
that.
asked the question is because she phrased it that she
They
wants
phrased
to pull
it.
on. Sorry, they phrased it as they want to for their audience, and she can come talk to them. But if you care so much about the message, if you care so much about the world in total, why wouldn't you do it privately? Because what I hear from you is you're only trying to do it because it would benefit you.
No, because
Why is that even an impure motive?
No. Can
It's
I
impure
respond?
because
Can I respond?
yeah.
Yes.
I
yes.
didn't do that because thank you, Raj.
You're welcome.
Oh my god.
You're welcome.
I didn't do that because do you think if I DM Sodapoppin, maybe he would. Maybe he would see all the DMs and he would pick out Eva Unalove and he would go, this person I've never heard from. I've never
This is such a
talked to
fatalistic
before."
argument.
No,
Yeah,
it isn't.
it is.
I'm saying I know what it's
fatalism.
like to have a lot of No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Wes, you have to realize the
It's
reality.
dumb that you would expect her to like cringily reach out to Sodapoppin and be like, "Hey, I'd like to talk."
Don't talk about how much you
Like,
care about the
what?
message when you're trying to push a message when you're only trying to do it for your personal gain.
educate
Ava,
Yes,
I am
like there's
not
only
doing
so many
personal
hours in the
message.
day.
Hold on.
There's only so much energy
I
in one's
agree
life. You can't do
your
everything.
message.
Every other trans person.
Okay, then do it where it influences a much larger audience than yours. His is hundreds of times larger than yours. If you
Wes,
care
it's
so much about the
literally a
message, not
hierarchy of
benefit
needs. Like health and you've got to fulfill your own life before you can go on
you
and
invite him
reach
on your show to talk about it with you. Great, I get
No,
that.
I'll go on his show and talk it with him. I don't give a fuck where I
It doesn't
am.
matter.
He's
It's still
streaming
pushing
now,
your
bring
fucking
him on.
brand. That's the issue I have.
No.
That's the issue I have. Is you're phrasing it
Bring him
like it's,
on.
oh,
No.
so almighty me, I'm
Please
trying to
no.
do something for these people. I'm trying to do something great for these communities. When really, the way you phrase this one specifically, because Ava, you know I agree with your message and I push it as well. Yeah, but you're trying to do it in a sense that is only based on personal gain. Because you could have attempted, at least tried. That's why I asked you if you did to do it behind the scenes. But instead, you want to say on this show of 30,000 people or whatever that you would invite him to onto a show, or that you would go on his show to talk about it. Why do you have to be
You know what?
platformed in front of a huge audience?
Listen, Jenna and I just had a private conversation Wednesday about her
Great.
wanting to improve.
Great.
I would totally do
Destiny
that
there?
with Sodapoppin as well.
Good.
Why does Wes
Too bad you like
have
Destiny, I
Eva
tried.
so much this show?
The way
So
you
it's
phrased
just
it just
like-
seemed like it was your personal agenda.
Well, for example, this, I'm a big.
I keep getting called out as this being like some insincere thing, and I'm like, I'm just trying to reinforce again and again and again. This is what I'm doing because people say, "Oh, you're dying for Bad Bunny. You're trying to support Bad Bunny because she's a leftist." No, I'm here for Jenna. I'm here for fucking Sodapoppin. This is what I do again and again and again,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to get it through your heads. Like
Ava.
I'm here for reform.
So as somebody,
Destiny.
Although I appreciate that.
so as somebody that has a longer history than anyone here of calling people out for debating and all that shit, okay? If I want to get somebody's attention to have a conversation with them that I think is productive, the easiest way to do it is publicly calling them out. If you send an email to someone, you don't know if they fucking read that shit. You don't even know which emails they read or if they're going to give a fuck. But if you publicly call somebody out, it forces some type of response. Even them ignoring you is some type of response if the call out is made public.
Ava, call him
And
out
I
right
am,
now.
and I would say that I probably have a much larger platform, at least at the moment, depends how much more league I play, than Eva does. So if I choose to call somebody out in a public manner because I think it's more effective, I would expect someone smaller than me to do it 10 million times more. Of course,
Do it, pussy.
a public call out is by far I do it all the time. A
Do it
public
right
call-
now. Do it for Sodapoppin.
Who cares about
Oh,
the
I don't know if
Sodapoppin?
Sodapoppin gives a fuck about these issues, which is why that my original.
You're not.
argument
Oh
is-
my God, you're not doing it either. You son of a.
Wait, stop! I'm not doing it because
Son of a
what I
bitch.
would say is you shouldn't fucking tweet about it if you don't know anything about the fucking issue. If someone wanted to have an argument about that, then we could, but I don't think he would. He'd probably say,
No.
"Oh, I don't really care about it that much."
Yeah,
so I'm not gonna argue about it."
I
But
do-
wait. I'm just saying to reinforce Eva's point. Like I would call somebody out publicly because it's a much more effective way of getting a response. Because even if they don't respond, that is some type of response. Then just shoot a fucking email into God knows how much is in their inbox already.
Especially when you only have so many hours in the day to do this stuff anyway. Why not multitask while you're
Wait,
at it?
Raj, does Soda want to join?
No, God, stop! Stop, guys, stop. No, here's the deal. We're talking about the tweet itself, and you know, look, I've met and talked. He comes from one of the nice. What makes this so shocking is he comes from some of the nicest, you know, people that I know. Both of his brothers, He's an extremely nice, kind person, and I don't think he would intend to do if he knew he was doing harm to anybody. I don't think he would.
No one is talking about
do
that. It
no,
doesn't
I
matter
know.
if you intend to do it or not. If I were to tweet out like I think black people
Sure,
should do it,
no,
less IQ
it
than
does
white
do
people,
harm.
That's not an okay tweet.
Of
It
course
doesn't matter
not.
if I'm
No,
friends
of
with
course
black
not.
people or
I'm not
Yeah,
saying it
Raj,
is okay.
He said
Yeah,
the
but you're
statement
sending
many
really
times
hard
over
for
the
him right
years.
now. Like he literally threw a dumb fuck tweet in.
Raj, she's not gonna fuck you, dude.
I know.
Oh my god! Shut the fuck up,
Wes.
Wes. Holy shit! No,
I've
you can't
honestly
sit here
always
and like
thought that-
and pull the fucking like. I know that you do this for your shit or whatever, but like when we're all discussing it, you can't come in and like sim hard for him. You're like, oh yeah, he's a nice guy, blah blah blah. That doesn't matter. Like the trans people that have to read the same attack helicopter joke 50 million times doesn't give a fuck that Sodapoppin's a nice guy. He's just contributing to harassment of all these people, whether he knows it or not, and he should know better by this point. Like that's it.
Well,
Oh God.
Yeah, I mean, just yeah, absolutely.
I thought the yelling got lesser as we got rid of people.
I thought so too, but Wes
Yeah.
keeps saying, Wes keeps stirring the pot.
I think
Well,
Wes
Wes,
is
the
just
more he
attacking
yells, the more
Eva
votes he
from
gets.
content.
So he's
But no,
figured
no.
out the winning formula
Oh,
here.
fuck off.
Why
I've
are
always
why
been
are
this
so
way.
people why are so many people uneducated on this? And look, this is something that frustrates me personally. Is that isn't it a scientific fact that that gender is not the same as biological sex, and people is conflate the right word?
Well,
At least the historical reality. I mean,
problem
that's
is
been
that-
a fact.
Why
of
don't
human
people
life for
understand
The
that?
problem is that no, because we don't have an intellectual attachment to gender or sex. That's not how we typically think of these things. We inherit values from our parents or from the society around us, and gender and sex, for the most part, are thought of as the same thing, and the roles that go on to these things are inherited. You don't even question them. So when you start to tell somebody something like, hey, like gender and sex, like people haven't even begun to they haven't even questioned their own sexuality or the way that they, engage with the concept of gender or how their gender expression works. Nobody even thinks about this stuff. It just happens without even thinking about it. This is why one of the reasons why it's so fucking hard to be trans is because you have this ingrained idea in your head that you haven't even thought about that it like makes you feel fucking horrible. So it's not if you don't reason yourself into a position, you can't reason yourself out of it, right? People don't engage with these topics typically in an intellectual manner, so they're very confused when people bring them up and tell you to like do it. I have to talk quickly before you come screaming in with some random fucking stupid fucking comment, Wes.
I can't follow you. You're speaking too fast. I thought about this the other day. I think modern warfare invented gamer word.
You think so?
No,
Modern Warfare
the
2?
Word is not the gamer word. The
No,
F
no,
word
and they
is.
invented using gamer words. They didn't invent the F and the N word. They invented use them by gamers.
Wait, I thought it was from that tweet or whatever. Like
What tweet?
there was a tweet where somebody said something like somebody was talking about how we shouldn't use hateful words, they're bigoted, blah 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 blah, and some rando on Twitter responded with like, people act like these are like hateful, horrible words. These are just words that gamers use. They said something like that. Like they,
Oh
so
yeah,
that people
I don't
shouldn't-
mean the
yeah.
phrase gamer words. Sorry, I just meant that the way
Oh.
that gamers use them.
sorry,
came
sorry,
from
sorry,
Modern
okay.
Warfare. Because I played a dozen fucking online games back then, and I keep talking to people and I hear the same experience. That it all started in Call of Duty. That's when people started dropping the F bomb and the M bomb on me.
My experience is that online gamers usually use the F word more, which is where I come from, and that like FPS gamers, especially console gamers, typically use the N word more. That's my understanding of the gamer words that each society.
I always just classify them as
Hold
like
on, this is a
gamer
perfect
and
segue.
A hardcore gamer, the one who uses the
This
N
is a
word.
perfect
It's like taking it
segue
way too
into
serious.
whether people should be allowed to use the F word or the N word. I'm just kidding. I'm not
Oh
gonna
my god, I will fight you.
What do you think? Should white people, lecture
I
fan,
said
what do you
I
think?
will
Should
fight him.
The ground has been thoroughly plowed.
Hey, Ava, it's not funny when a man gets abused. okay?
gamer
Pipe it
words? Lecture fan, you're being very
Why
quiet
are
right now. Do you want to say
assuming
something?
Physical violence. Wes, why are you assuming physical violence, mister? I'm gonna punch in my camera.
I
If
use
I'm
physical
gonna
violence
fight
on my
someone,
camera.
it's gonna be words.
Ava, I punch my camera so I don't have to punch a hole through my fucking monitor to listen to idiots like you speak trash.
Oh my god!
Calm
Jeez
Did you say?
Wes,
Vest?
like, slow down on the coffee or something, dude.
Yeah.
Chill out.
Yeah.
Deep breaths, Wes. Calm down. You're gonna
I actually
be okay.
just punched myself in the nose super hard.
Okay. Oh my god. Are you bleeding? Are you bleeding?
Did you like cast some force?
Are you bleeding? Wow, Eva.
Wait, am I bleeding?
this is how I fight. Don't touch.
Yeah. Don't you dare mess up her pronoun again, you son of a bitch.
Hey, don't wait.
What?
She's a wizard.
You just.
Oh, I just fucked it up in that sentence. I'm sorry. Don't you dare fuck up their pronoun, you son of a bitch. I just fucked it up. I'm sorry. Bernie Sanders received an endorsement from Joe Rogan this week. After embracing the support, he received criticism from an LGBTQ
Advocacy group.
Advocacy
Holy
group.
shit.
I'm sorry. You know how sometimes I
smoking
normally
weed,
can pronounce those words. Advocacy group, because of comments Rogan has made in the past regarding gender, race, and sexuality. Joe Rogan has massive reach and his endorsement is undeniably valuable. Should Bernie really be expected to refuse the support of him? Anybody want to start?
How long has it been since he's done
Lecture.
anything
This is your game. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So I find this just absolutely hilarious. As a conservative, as a Trump supporter, I am loving watching the left tear each other apart like this. And the CNN article on this says that Bernie Sanders is facing backlash from Democrats after taking an endorsement from Joe Rogan, who has a history of racist, homophobic, and transphobic comments. You combine this with what Elizabeth Warren did with Bernie Sanders, implying he's a sexist, and it's just as like mind-boggling, because it's like, does the progressive left have any other attacks other than racist, bigot, homophobe? It's like they're doing it to their own now. They can never make a substantive attack. It's always a racist, bigot, homophobe. I mean, Joe Rogan and Bernie Sanders now are racist, bigot, homophobes. I mean, it's just preposterous, and I think it just shows that they've got nothing in substance, so they always resort to these exact same name-calling tactics, and I think it's pathetic.
So there has been a problem with people on the left that are getting into the purity testing shit a little bit too much. We saw the same issue crop up when Bernie Sanders tried to endorse Cenk. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but the guy from the Young Turks that's running for CA District 25.
Yeah, Cenk.
I think, right? Yeah, Cenk. Yeah, that when Bernie Sanders endorsed him, Bernie's crowd came out and was so extreme that they basically made him withdraw his endorsement. This is a problem that like other Democrats have noticed too, that the progressive wing, the Justice Dems, the AOC, and the more extreme left-leaning candidates like Bernie and Warren, who are even fighting against each other now, are fucking shit up like really hard over really kind of stupid, petty reasons.
Why do you guys think that I'm sorry.
Go
I'm
ahead.
just curious, like, why do you guys think the left seems so much more prone to devour itself than the right?
Well,
Right
now it's happening. No, right now it's happening because we're having a primary, and the right isn't. But Trump has been absolutely divided. Like, he shuts on his own fucking attorney general on Twitter and shit. Like, Trump is constantly fighting his party. We just don't pay attention.
He forces unity. It always seems to. He always seems to get it.
The Democrat, the left has way more unity.
No, Trump doesn't force unity. The reason why they have unity is because they need to win their elections, and because Trump is popular in the U.S., so people will eventually fall in line. But like, Trump has repeatedly backstabbed. Look at when he sent fucking Pence to Congress. And revoked the spending bill? I don't even remember which one it was. Like overnight, like wasting everybody's time. Like there's plenty of division on the right. If we remember back to the primary seasons when the Republicans were primarying, when Trump was literally saying Ted Cruz's dad was the fucking Zodiac killer. Like holy shit. We just notice it more right now because it's what we're seeing right now because of the primary season.
Wait,
no, that's absolutely right. And historically, that's
like the left. It seemed like there were a lot more people on the left who were not willing to vote for Hillary than conservatives who were not willing to vote for Trump.
Another problem.
Hillary's run by fucking aliens, so I understand.
Okay, stop. Never mind. Okay, so what I was gonna say. Sorry, hold on. I have something relevant to say.
Are you drunk, Candy?
The thing is that people on the left, people on the right. This is conjecture, but people on the extreme right, like the KKK or Nazis or whatever, have understood for a long time that if I want to further a hateful message, we got this even from the Southern Strategy, like in the '60s and shit. If I want to further a hateful message, I need to be a little bit more intelligent about the ways that I do it. People on the extreme right have always been willing to compromise with people on the right. If you're a neo-Nazi and your goal is less brown people in the U.S., more isolationist foreign policy, right? Like Trump is actually your guy. He's pretty chill. He does a lot of stuff that like super ultra racist and hateful people would want without necessarily being that himself. I don't think that Trump is a fucking Nazi.
I think
However, when people on the left, see that like somebody's not for their exact flavor of Medicare for all, they lose their fucking mind and they pull their fucking hair out and they have no idea how to be effective in their political messaging over it, and it's horrible to watch.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at, and I just don't know why that's the case. I don't know why. I guess ultimately, I just somebody mentioned to me, and I think this makes a lot of sense. It seems like folks on the right value a lot more. They are a lot more disposed to value structure and falling in line than people on the left are, and I mean that seems to be.
I just think this is that's totally wrong.
People on the right are very politically effective. Like they're willing to play dirty to get their things done, like keep black people from voting, do whatever the fuck they can to like push their political agenda through. People on the left oftentimes have more problems with that for a myriad of reasons, I guess.
Well, I just reject everything that Destiny's saying about racism being some far right thing. It's absolutely not true. The Democrats are the party of the KKK and racism.
Oh, come on. Come on.
It's just bullshit.
Let me
finish.
no.
And it's just complete. And it's just complete bullshit to do that. And it's also completely false to say that the right is always getting behind each other and the left never does it. When you have specific examples in the last 2 years of Democrats and liberals wearing blackface, and all you left is getting right behind him. And Ralph Northam in Virginia and Justin Trudeau in Canada both wore blackface, and the whole left supported them. And so it's all bullshit.
That makes sense. That makes sense. All the
lecture fan. No, that's true. He's right.
Proven by two guys.
He's right to an extent, but he's wrong. Destiny, go ahead.
No, okay.
You figured it out.
There was a point in history when the party. Go ahead, Destiny. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Okay, party switch is a very simplistic way to say it, okay? Parties didn't just switch, okay? But political ideas definitely evolved over time. The Democratic Party of the 60s is not the Democratic Party of today. The Republican Party of the 60s sure as fuck isn't the Republican Party of the day. So to say that this party is the history of whatever, when some of these political parties date back to the 1800s, is really fucking stupid. It's a very naive and clueless view of how political parties work, firstly. Secondly, if we want to talk about the impacts that political parties have on minorities, okay, I care more about people trying to like defund Planned Parenthood or trying to make it, illegal for certain types of people to come to the country, or locking people in cages where they starve to death away from their fucking families, a lot more than whether or not some leader 20 years ago wore blackface at a fucking college party. Okay, one of these is very fucking important. The other one is dumb, plays well the rhetoric to a racist base.
That's fine, but we're talking about.
Be very clear. There are people on the left that are going after Trudeau. So, like, within my circle, we absolutely are talking about that. Not from a, like, canceling him perspective, if you will, but this is something to talk about and be concerned about and push.
Meanwhile,
in a very simple...
when President Trump, meanwhile, just to show what the standards are like for racism on the right, when the Central Park Five, who were accused of raping and killing a woman, were exonerated, President Trump didn't at all modify his stance that ultimately they should have received the death penalty.
Yeah, I remember. Oh, yeah, he printed that in an article.
He printed it in the New York Times. He tried to ruin the lives of 5 innocent black men in the most shamelessly racist fashion possible. And it's all fine. It's all under the bridge because, hey, it was 1980s. Who cares, right? We got to fall in behind the leader and stop the lefties.
Okay, so, look, this is what pisses me off, lecture fan, because if in the simplest of forms, look, I'm not a political guy, okay? I don't know the difference between Iraq and Iran, okay? I don't know,
that's geography.
But one thing I do know, I know that's a country song, okay? It's a country song. I'm surprised you don't know that song.
I'm just a country lawyer.
I'm just a singer of simple songs. I'm not a real political man.
Yes, good one. Keep it up, Raj.
You know what I'm talking about? Okay,
very serious point.
But like the Democrats of today would be the Republicans of yesterday, and the Republicans of today would have been the Democrats of yesterday. Is that not true?
I don't understand.
Here's the big picture. Here's the big picture thing.
In 1860, the Democratic Party, which you say has been the same for all time, literally tried to destroy the Union to preserve slavery. In 1960, they were trying to pass civil rights legislation to enfranchise blacks with the first real freedom they ever had in American history.
The Republican Party used
clearly to be, and fundamentally changed in that.
The Republican Party used to be the Progressive Party, didn't it, Destiny? The Republican Party was the Progressive Party, wasn't it?
Listen, guys.
At a time, it was. I mean, for example, President Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt, Republican president, was in the early 1900s the first president who invited a black man to dine with him at the White House. So at the time, the Republican Party was the more progressive party.
It was. That's what I said. Isn't that fucking? Destiny, how is that wrong? Back me up here.
I'm just saying that when you say a party, okay, it's not as simple as the party switched like randomly that happened.
Yeah.
To say that one party was progressive, but like different parties are sort of for different values based on what's going on in the context of what's happening at a particular point in time. Like, it's more complicated than just saying somebody switched at one point or another. I'm just saying that the blanket statement of like this was the party of slavery is a really fucking stupid statement to say. It's incredibly naive. We would never go back to the 1800s or early 1900s to find the political position of a party and then condemn those people in the party today. Like, even over the past 15 to 20 years, the political parties have diverged significantly from where they are. The Tea Party's influence in the Republican Party has shifted it towards a much greater anti-corporation party than it used to be, 10 or 15 years ago, doing part to the Tea Party, doing part to Trump. The Democratic Party today has moved farther to the left as a result, even from 2016, of Bernie Sanders' run, where you see everybody championing 15-hour minimum wage, everybody championing some sort of universal health care. This wasn't the Democratic Party of 10 years ago. And that's just 10 years ago, right? So I'm just saying that to say that the party switched or they used blah, blah, blah is really stupid and a really dumb way of looking at the positions of any political party.
Okay, why do you have to fight so much? Stop fighting. No, that's it. Don't say that to me. You're so mean, okay? In Sweden, whenever there's a question, we vote for it and we all come to a conclusion. No matter who wins the election. No, that's the thing. That's the thing.
What? There's political. There's a lot of political. There's. It's the same thing in Sweden. There's just different issues. Like in Sweden, they're debating whether they should allow anybody that's not white into the country. I think that's one of the hot topics in Sweden.
Well, no, we all love everybody.
I think there's a
Depends.
different level of civility. There's more mudslinging in American politics.
Have you seen British Parliament?
Yeah, I don't know.
Or the House of Lords or whatever.
Norway perspective. So
anyway, okay.
I can't speak on Sweden,
Well,
but
yeah,
Norway
Sweden
is
is
close.
different from Norway. Sweden is.
I think it's time to take a vote.
And I was gonna say Sweden is having huge debates right now related to how they want to do immigration policy in their country as well. Like that's definitely.
That's just what you heard, Destiny. I didn't.
No, that's not what I've heard. That is a fact right now that in Sweden.
Candy, I was there. That's what they were talking about.
Any of that. We love everybody. That's just what you think.
Well, there's some Candy.
I wish that everybody else also.
Candy, you're actually clueless. You just don't know what's going on in your own country. You're 90% of Americans.
Candy, listen, hold on, wait. Candy,
6/7 of the U.S. don't fucking vote because they have no idea what's going on.
Sweden, as a proportion of their population, took in more like brown refugees than any other country in Europe, and as a result, in some parts of Sweden, there have been increases of crime. There was a huge fucking box of grenades or some shit shipped to that country like several years ago. You've seen grenade attacks. You've seen more violence in Malmo. Like there are big debates in Sweden over what's the appropriate level of immigration and how do we integrate the people that we have brought to this country as refugees or immigrants. That is a huge debate that goes on in Sweden right now. And your right-leaning parties have gotten a bit more popular as a result of that rhetoric. Like, it absolutely is.
No, the problem is that everybody else should also be, like, helping other... Like, everybody in the...
You know what? Fuck it, Candy.
Sweden
You need to run for president of Sweden.
Right? I think Yeah, I think so, too. I think
you'd be a great prime minister and get everybody to get along.
There you go.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think it would get assassinated.
Peace and love. Peace and love.
Okay, Candy. Please do that. Before that, can we have some conversations on gender? Just like a few. I think that would be good. Just a few.
Actually, I want to be honest, Eva. You have to chill on that shit because you can actually get banned on Twitch for self-harm. And when you start going down that road, holy shit.
Okay, let's take a vote.
I'm sorry.
No, I think Candy would be lovely to talk to. I don't think it would be anything like that.
I love Sweden, but I did go there, and there's like there's like memes amongst young people's Kandyland that like grenades are being thrown in Malmo. Like that's
not a meme. That's an actual thing that happens. There's a lot of
really?
grenades.
It's pretty tragic.
Well, no, but like they would kind of.
That's what we're saying, Kandyland, is that you're not from there and you only know what's happening in your like 20-mile radius. You don't know
it
what's
does
actually
happen
going on in your country.
Yeah, Sweden's got some
southern
problems.
Sweden.
Well, not where I'm from. There's no grenades where I come from.
Candyland, I love you, but you live like literally, I think like an 8-hour drive north of Stockholm. You're very, very far away from like Sweden, right?
Yeah, but I'm still invited to the show and I bring my opinions, right?
We love.
Yeah, you are. I'm just saying that like Sweden
great,
does have some
Kandyland.
issues that they're dealing with that they're trying to like get through, and it's important to like recognize said issues. I think.
Indeed. The best competitive eaters in the world often seem to be very slim Japanese men, for example. I mean, size doesn't seem like it play much role there.
Kobayashi, yeah.
Yeah, Kobayashi, who wins the Nathan's Famous Hot Dog Contest, or at least did at one time.
The thinner the
I had a
people,
friend
they're
that
usually
was
the better
Asian.
the eaters.
She used to play League with me a long time ago, and I looked her up on Facebook, and she is a competitive eater. Is that actually like an Asian like?
I don't know.
superpower?
Asians are better at everything. I swear to God. I don't know why.
I don't know about.
I didn't know that was a stereotype. Oh, I'm super curious.
Wait, I wanted to ask this question. Is there anything wrong with having positive stereotypes?
Yes.
Yeah, let's talk about that. It's a good topic.
Is it because
I can give you 2 harmful examples from people that I've talked to. One is that if you're Asian, the idea that like, oh, you're so good at math or whatever can be really annoying because you're settling an expectation on somebody without them, you know, maybe they suck at math and now you're going to think it's shitty, blah, blah, blah. Trying to live up to those expectations or those stereotypes can make you feel really shitty. Another example I have, if you're black, a lot of women will fetishize your blackness and expect you to have like a massive fucking dick. If you're a black dude with a normal sized dick, like some people make you feel like shit over it. Like, oh fuck, like I thought you had like where's the 12 inches? Like I thought, you know,
just new forms of inadequacy.
Even positive stereotypes, stereotypes can make people feel like shit. So it's
Well,
better.
maybe everybody learns from experience. For example, like every person who the best at Usu. You know the game Usu.
Usu, yeah.
Everybody I know who's like super fucking good at it, they are Asian, and I don't understand why, but they are.
Is that would that be an example, Destiny, of a harmful positive stereotype?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's just not a good stereotype. It's usually just not good to stereotype people, just because you run into bad things. Like another thing that happens, for instance, when we talk about video games, like there are a lot of people, not as much anymore because we're a little bit more globalized than we were 10 years ago. But like 10 years ago, people unironically thought that if you went to like South Korea and you were really good at video games, like girls will like fuck you right on the street. Like you're the shit. Like people's parents will be excited to meet you. But that's not true. People that were hardcore gamers in South Korea were bullied just as much as like people that play video games in any other part of the world. Or like if you go to Japan, there are people that think if I go to Japan, like that's so cool. I could talk to random adults on the street and they're gonna tell me like their favorite fucking animes. Like this is so cool. There's probably a waifu pillow shop on every fucking street. I can buy my Insurers or whatever the fuck they're called. Like it's not true. Like there are a lot of people that have like.
If you didn't have any voice, I think you.
What? Okay, wait. Am I cutting out a lot for any other person or am I?
Yeah, no, she cut out a lot too.
Destiny, how did you get to Japan?
What?
Isn't there a height limit on planes?
That was the worst because if there was any type of limit on a plane, Wes, it would be a weight limit. So you'd have less of a chance of flying than I would. So shut the fuck up. What kind of random ass fucking attack is that?
Yeah, I think that was like an attempted carnival ride joke. That one didn't quite land.
Yeah,
I did land. I'm sorry.
It didn't land very well.
They're not all
just like any plane that Wes is on.
There you go.
Right.
Raj, what else have you got?
Nothing. That's it. I'm here until next. I'm here 1 to 3 days a week.
Wes, you're not scared of turbulence because every time you buy a plane ticket, they seat you in the middle of the plane, so it can't shift from side to side. I'm done. I'm sorry. That's the only one I'm doing. Okay, I'm done with the fat jokes.
No, they told me that I can't fit on the plane, you asshole, and I get a free upgrade.
Oh man, the next journalist is gonna have a field day with you, Destiny. I can't wait.
Destiny, fat shit.
I'm done. That was the only one. Okay.
Well, hold on. I have to act like a victim.
Candy, what do you want to do for a living if Twitch doesn't work out?
I would like to. Well, okay. So I've had but my favorite job is taking care of elders. So
taking care of elders, dude. If you went the other direction, you would be perfect. You seem like an awesome person that I could bring over to my house, and then you and my 8-year-old son could just play together because you seem like you'd be on that way.
No, not kids. No, I don't like kids. I hate kids, to be honest.
Wait, hold on. Don't you have a computer science degree?
I do. I have 2 finished, but I did work as a programmer for a while. And it sucked. I don't want to finish that.
I don't want to say what I think you should be because I feel like it's sexist. But
just say it, Raj.
Should I?
Yeah. Wait, what did you say, Esfan?
I don't know.
What did you do? Like programming? Like what did you program?
Okay, so it was like web applications, and also I did that like back end of big Swedish goddamn corporation stuff, but it was so boring and I felt so bad.
Vote.
Why'd you feel bad?
Vote.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. I could finish my degree just to goddamn be behind me, but I don't want to do it just because people make me feel bad for not doing it. So
vote.
What will make me happy is just take care of older people.
Destiny, what would you do if streaming didn't work out?
Jesus Christ, I don't fucking know. Probably something with computers or something. I would try to do something in industry, I guess. Right? Like working with sponsors or working with marketing people or something.
Destiny, I feel like you'd be a great teacher.
I think I actually teach pretty well, but I fucking hate teaching. I can't.
A good professor.
Oh, you also hate kids?
I feel like
no, I love kids. I just hate teaching. That sounds fuck man.
Right?
What?
Do you think you get frustrated too easily if people wouldn't understand what you're saying?
It's not that I get frustrated. I just don't like going over the same thing over and over and over and over.
I think everybody.
Well, you're a streamer, so don't you do that every day?
But it's more stuff that I'm interested in doing. So like a long time ago, for instance, I gave like StarCraft 2 lessons, and I was doing that at one point like 7 hours a day, and like giving the same advice like over and over again. Hey, you got to do this. Hey, you need to do that. Hey, it was just like fucking agony. The idea of like teaching like a room full of students, and then they graduate, and then I have to teach the exact same shit to another group of fucking students the next year. Like I don't know. Doing that over and over again is just I don't know.
Man, I don't know what to do.
I think they should fight.
The winner right now on straw poll is winning by 1 vote, and now it's a tie, dead even tie. On Twitter, it's 51 to 49% in favor of one person until I refresh, and it's still 49 to 51%.
Okay, Destiny, fight me.
What do you want to fight over?
Well, the victory. Hello.
I just don't know what to do. I don't know. This is like a
Let's have
virtual tie.
Okay, in Amsterdam, we can delay the ruling on who is actually victor. We can box for it, okay? Do you want to do that?
Yeah, let's box for it. Yes.
First person to get naked wins.
All right. Am I comfortable? Are you guys comfortable calling this the first statistical tie in the history of the Rajj Royale podcast?
Are you kidding? Is it a tie? I'm so honored to be calling it a tie. Are you kidding me?
I'm embarrassed. I don't know how to The thing is that if I win, I can be like, I won, because obviously, I'm the better contestant. If I lose, I can say, oh, incels, because that's what everyone does. But tying,
a tie, you really don't know what you can
I'm
say.
not really
God forbid, Destiny, you might be equal with a woman.
Yeah, Destiny, why are you better than me? Like,
Now, the
why?
Twitter poll is more decisive, and I do believe we can make a call based on that, so we're going to do it. The Twitter poll is decisive in a 51-49% split. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm comfortable making the winner of the Rajj Royale podcast. Brace yourselves, sit in your seat tightly. Here we go. The winner of the Rajj Royale podcast with 50% of the vote by a 5-vote majority in the straw... 7-vote majority in the straw poll and a 2% majority in the Twitter poll after 6,000 votes were casted. The winner of the Rajj Royale podcast, sponsored by Displate, is... Destiny! Congratulations on your victory!
I've been waiting for a goddamn win for fucking 7 shows, Raj.
I'm gonna get booed off stage. People are booing me. I get booed either way.
Hey, Candy? Time for you to get the fuck off this show. Motherfucker. You manipulated Wes. You lied to me about it. You're an evil, you're a tempter seductress. And it didn't work today.
Hey, my man.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored. I couldn't imagine being equal with Destiny. It's so cool.
Oh,
well, it's 2019.
So cute. I love Candy.
Clear.
Candy never changed.
Okay?
Seriously,
it
I love.
wasn't equal at all.
I love you, Kandyland,
Raj,
forever.
Correct the record. Raj, correct the record on that. It wasn't equal. I did, in fact, have a.
Well, yes.
significant win.
Currently, Destiny is beating you by 3 votes, Kandyland.
Thank you.
Take care, Destiny. Your turn. Go live.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the conclusion of the Rajj Royale podcast, sponsored by Display. Thank you for joining us.
This is really common. You'll see very common attack ads where people are like, oh, Bernie voted for the fucking spending bill. And it's like, yeah, he did vote for the spending bill.